you all so much for coming. If you all weren't going to be quiet, H was going to put you in a timeout. Charlene, many years tried to put me in a timeout, but it never worked. But thank you all so much for coming.
So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome home. Special thanks. I could thank everybody in this room, but I just want to give some special thanks to Ernie, to Paul Cohen for making this happen. They are incredible, and I'm eternally grateful. There are some other people in the room I have to thank because without them, we would not be here. They saved us in 1990. Doyle Mitchell, wherever you're sitting. Billy Jarvis. Paul Cohen. And Jack Evans. They will each tell you a different story on how they saved us, but they're all true. H.H. Leonard's. I founded O Museum in the Mansion with no money, no business background, no art background, so this is from the grace of God. And I'm the co-founder of 51 Steps to Freedom, which is also the grace of God. 51 Steps to Freedom was born within these very walls and is now its own nonprofit and is becoming the largest outdoor museum in the world right here in Washington, D.C. Through immersive storytelling, public art, and augmented reality viewed through your phone, we are taking to the streets stories of hidden figures who have shaped our nation. Quiet heroes, courageous visionaries, people who, like Mrs. Rosa Parks and the Honorable Charlene Drew Jarvis, chose service over self, purpose over popularity. The chair of 51 Steps, of course, is sitting right here and we're honoring her today. The daughter of a quiet genius whose scientific breakthroughs changed the world. You can see Dr. Jarvis and Dr. Drew's activation in 4 places in Washington. We launched them today. The childhood home of Dr. Drew, which is on 21st and H Street. Charlene's childhood home in Detroit. The American Red Cross Museum on 17th Street, and the Red Cross headquarters in Foggy Bottom. Before we go any further, I want to share a sneak peek from the Dr. Drew's stop on the 51-Step Trail, launching today. You can go to 51stepstofreedom.org to get a free ticket and download that free app.
You're standing where the childhood home once was, of a boy who would one day change the way the world saves lives. His name was Charles Drew, or Charlie as he was called, even as an adult.
Born in D.C. in 1904 as the oldest of 5 children, he was raised in a home that emphasized academic achievement, church membership, civic knowledge, and personal responsibility.
Fast on the football field and focused in the classroom, he earned All-American honors at Amherst College while tutoring teammates in biology. After earning his medical degree from McGill University in Canada, he became the first African-American to receive a Doctor of Medical Science degree from Columbia University.
When World War II broke out, Dr. Drew was asked to solve a life-or-death problem: how to store and ship blood safely across oceans and battlefields. He led the Blood for Britain program and developed breakthrough methods for refrigerating and preserving blood plasma.
His innovative work became the foundation of the American Red Cross Blood Bank. He spoke out against the segregation of blood by race, calling the practice unsupported by science, saying,
"On the battlefields, nobody is very interested in where the plasma comes from when they are hurt."
Once the blood banks were up and running, with his methods firmly in place, Dr. Drew returned to his full-time work teaching future doctors as chair of surgery at Howard University Medical School and treating patients as a surgeon at Freedman's Hospital.
During segregation, no hotels on the way to the South welcomed African Americans. Dr. Drew was traveling to a conference in Tuskegee, Alabama, and was scheduled to speak there. On April 1st, 1950, he fell asleep at the wheel near Burlington, North Carolina. He died from his injuries at just 46.
But the systems he built and the courage he showed still saved lives all around the world.
Learn from Charlene Drew Jarvis, daughter of Charles Drew and longtime public figure of DC, by tapping on the buttons around her.
Our family was really the African American community because we grew up in a segregated society. I went to segregated schools until the Supreme Court decision in 1954. I would have gone to the elite academic school, Dunbar High School, but instead I went to the school in my community, which was Roosevelt High School. So when we went to the integrated high schools, the expectation for achievement of African American students was low. And yet, Dr. Drew said, excellence of performance will overcome any artificial barriers created by man, and that's what we learned in our organic family. Wow.
So when you go to one of the 4 locations, you'll see more of the story. It's pretty deep, and it's pretty incredible what the 2 of them have achieved. How many people have not been here before? A lot. Welcome. For 46 blessed years, what took you all so long? We've created a sanctuary for reflection, creativity, and transformation. Our Heroes and Artists in Residence program has quietly provided over 1,000 nights each year for veterans, first responders, and creatives who have used their talents to uplift others. Our first hero in residence was Cordell, a homeless Vietnam veteran. He slept here for 3 winters and taught himself piano by listening to a transistor radio. We got him a job earning $2,500 a week as a Bobby Short-style performer. And in this very room where I'm standing right over here, he sang "Oh Holy Night" with Luciano Pavarotti. Our most famous hero in residence, Mrs. Rosa Parks. She and her team lived here for 10 years. Miracles happen when you say yes to what God brings. If you have been here before, you know there are over 100 rooms, and yes, over 100 secret doors. And no 2 ceilings throughout the 112-room mansion are alike, to remind us all to look up, beyond ourselves, to believe anything is possible if we dare to be different.
So good.
I hope you stay after this program. We're open till 7 o'clock, and just get lost, because you don't get found if you don't get lost. Today's event is part of our First Sunday Gospel series, a tradition rooted in this quiet power of storytelling and music. Gospel at its root means good news. Gospel is love. It has no borders, no labels, no requirements. It lives in every music genre: classical, jazz, blues, country, rock, hip-hop, and yes, rap. That is why Mrs. Parks created and loved this series. She also particularly loved the cookies we served during the Gospel First Sundays. And her favorite cookie was the Girl Scout shortbread. So to honor her and CDJ, the Girl Scouts donated the cookies today. I was a Girl Scout. I hope you enjoy them as much as she did. Our first Gospel Sundays are gatherings of the soul, moments to reflect, to reconnect, and be remembered by what truly matters: courage, community, survival, and faith. This afternoon, we're deeply honored to welcome an extraordinary trailblazer, a woman of grit, fierce purpose, gentle strength, and unshakable grace, the Honorable Charlene Drew Jarvis. TJ, your life is a living sermon, a story of dignity, discipline, and unwavering service. You have led across generations, not only with your work, but with your love. And like Mrs. Parks, you have done it quietly, consistently, and without seeking applause. So let's give her. So today, we celebrate not just your father's legacy, but yours as well. Today, we don't just listen to you and your father's wisdom. We celebrate both of your life work. You have given us a future rooted not in division, but in unity, purpose, reverence, and hope. By example, you have taught us that real change happens one heart at a time, and love built on respect is faithful. It listens, it shows up early, and it stays late, and it lifts us all up. Dr. Jarvis, thank you for teaching us these lessons, and thank you all for being here to laugh, to sing, maybe to shed a tear or two, and to be reminded life isn't just about living a dream, it's about making dreams real for others. Let's make some of those dreams real together, today, and every day. And please buy Charlene's book. Her words about her father and the lessons he passed down are nothing short of amazing grace. I now introduce you to the woman I've come to call the soul of DC, and her grandchildren call her Cha-Cha.
Those are very high words, very meaningful words from a woman herself who has contributed so much. This is a woman who is selfless, who recognizes history, who understands the sharing of our past. He understands beauty, who understands drama, who understands bringing people together across the races and across the ages of people, who believes in a world that all of us need to be able to grow into. I was talking to, yes, that's you. You can see. I was sitting next to H this morning just before we came in, and I said, H, you know, you really have an extraordinary brain. And I want you to know how important that is to me, because I'm a neuroscientist. You have an extraordinary brain. And she said to me, it's given by God. And she believes that. And I'm not a believer, but I believe her when she says that. Because she really is an extraordinary woman, a heart and soul that you do not find. You don't. I'm not saying this because I'm standing here in front of this extraordinary woman. You don't find a woman or women or men made up of this stuff. But you find it in H. Thank you. I am truly glad to be here with Paul Cohn, who has been with me in my political career all of my life, and who is a part of this organization. And I am also a part of 51 Steps. 51 Steps is an extraordinary historic trail around this city. I want to acknowledge the former mayor of the District of Columbia. I want to acknowledge the current member of the council, for the future. I want to acknowledge the Right Reverend Medical Dr. Mitchell. Dr. Mitchell, thank you for being here. Reverend, I said, because you know you're saving lives. People ask God to save lives. You do that too. I'm delighted to be here today. I want to thank my family. I want to thank my son for bringing us together today. It was a labor of love. It was 2 weeks. Then he got this together, and I'm grateful that all of you are here. I'm grateful that my grandson Jake is here, and that Kristen Jarvis, my daughter, is here with Sean, and with Mason, and with Collins. Kristen is the son of Ernie Jarvis, my former husband. I claim him because I claim her. Ted Spiro is the man behind this wonderful woman. And Ted, you know, you have the same level of creativity, the same level of contribution. You match perfectly. You know what a perfect match is? This is a perfect match. I want to make sure that I have acknowledged all of you that I should have acknowledged separately. I want to acknowledge Merle Bowser, who is the sister of my husband, Dr. DeMaurice Bucky Moses, who couldn't be here today because of his illness, but he has contributed mightily to my understanding of the contributions of Dr. Drew from a medical perspective, Billy. And this morning, he contributed even greater to my understanding when he talked about my father's work I'll remember in a minute. I still have a good memory. I just had same-day service. And I didn't write that part of it down. Anyway, it'll come to me. And these are my notes. And I want to make sure that I acknowledge the people who are in my notes. I want to acknowledge my sisters. My sister, Bibi, who is named for a blood bank. She was named by the nurses at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, where my father was doing his work and where she was born. I want to acknowledge my sister, Rhea Sylvia. Rhea Sylvia, in our literature, is the mother of Romulus and Remus. My father thought that this was a good name. And of course, that is where he got his name. There were 4 of us, Bibi, Charlene, Sylvia, and Charlie, my dear, dear, dear brother. Charlie is not here with us, but I can tell you that the mark of Charlie was that he would stand with his hands in his pockets while he told his jokes. And so what in my mind, what I see is my brother Charlie standing and telling jokes. I see Matt McGuire. His father was somebody who was special to us, Mickey McGuire. Thank you for being here. I want to mention my grandsons, EJ, Jake, and Jake and EJ. EJ's not here today. He's in San Francisco. They're both wonderful. They're smart. They're looking ahead. They're part of the new era of young people who are taking their place in this world in many, many different ways. Ways that we didn't as we grew up because our road was narrower. Their road is not narrow. These young people can go wherever their hearts take them. And so that's what's going on with them, and that's true of Kristen, that's true of Sean as well. Dr. Mitchell, I'm going to make sure that I acknowledge you. Let me say it again. You are going to be hearing this morning from my 8-year-old self. So I want you to know that. I was 8 when my dad died. And the memories that I have are wonderful memories. And what he taught me in that period of time was extraordinary. And my father was a disciplinarian. Whoa, was he a disciplinarian? So some of the best memories I have of him, or at least memories, not always good. We lived on the campus at Howard University. I had cut my foot, and my mother had me in a little red wagon, and my foot was bleeding rather profusely. But I saw my father coming, and his white coat was flapping in the back, and his tie was flapping, and I prayed that the blood would stop before he got there. My father was a swimmer. He was an extraordinary swimmer, and I, my husband is an extraordinary swimmer too. And so I think of both of them in the same way. My husband is an intellect like my dad, and that comparison is true. That comparison is true in terms of their intellectual prowess. So I talked to him this morning about some good memories that I might not have known about it. He told me about something about the military. And here again, I'm going to try to remember what he told me this morning about the military. Because my father's work was so important during the Second World War. In El Alamein, a country which is near Libya, there was great fighting there. And the German troop, we were fighting, the Germans and the British were fighting. The British had blood plasma. The British had blood plasma because the Blood for Britain project was the project that my father started initially. So that connection with Britain was very, very important. So the British soldiers had blood plasma. The German soldiers had none. That El Alamein battle was fought because our soldiers had plasma and the German soldiers did not. So when we think about the contribution in the military, it was really quite an extraordinary contribution. And that's the kind of thing that he talks about all of the time, the memories that he has, that he shares because he remembers my father's reputation when he was in medical school. So this is what we have at our dinner table all of the time. My mother was a saint. When my dad died, there were 4 children, Bibi, Charlie, and Sylvia, Charlie. My brother Charlie was 3, Sylvia was 5. I was 8, and my sister Bibi was 9. So that's a lot for a mom to take on. My mother, I said, was a saint, but she was also a smart one because she had 2 master's degrees before she was married. She and my father met. She was teaching at Spelman. My father had come to Georgia in order to go to a meeting in Atlanta with Mercer Cook. And many of you might know Mercer Cook's family, or Mercer Kip. And so they went and came back. My father got struck and came back. And for those of you who went to Spelman, or knew people who did, there was a Bessie Strong cottage. Do you remember that? Okay. And so that's where my mother was. But he came back at 11 o'clock at night, and the person who answered the door said he couldn't be admitted. And he said he would be, so he pushed. And he went and he found my mother. And very shortly thereafter, they were married, but my mother, one of the things he said to her was that it was time for him to raise a family. And my mother said, well, maybe it's not a wife you need. So her intellectual ability was terrific. And I remember after our dad died, my mother had a master's degree in English, and so she knew Shakespeare. And so there were so many things that my mother said to us that came from Shakespeare. In the morning she would say, "Stand not upon the altar of going, but go." So we learned a lot from her, because she was quite an intellectual being. She did an extraordinary job raising 4 children. Bibi, Charlie, Sylvia, and Charlie. My sister Bibi is in San Diego with her husband Klein. Sylvia is in Los Angeles with her family. Bibi, Charlie, Sylvia, and Charlie. Okay, Charlie, we lost, right? But we have a lot of Drews. And one of them is Kathy Drew. And her girls. Kathy is really keeping the history of the Drew family, because my father's family was Joe, her grandfather, Charlie, Nora, Eva, and Elsie. Elsie, we believe, is the reason that my dad went into medicine, because she died early. I think tuberculosis.
Influenza/tuberculosis.
We're not clear?
During the Spanish flu pandemic.
Okay, all right. And it seems very clear to us that Dad went into medicine. It seems very clear to them at the time because of it. My Aunt Eva came to Arlington to live about 10 years ago, 15 years ago or so, and I was so glad because she brought memories with her. So I said, you know, Aunt Eva, my dad was 8 when I died. I don't know as much about him as you knew because you grew up with him. And could you just take this black notebook? You remember the black notebooks we had that were white and black on the front? I said, could you just take this black notebook and fill it up with memories? And I'm suggesting that to you. For your parents, your grandparents, get a book. Say, Mom, write it down, right? Tell me about my grandparents, tell me about where they were born, tell me what their hopes and dreams were. Put that all in a notebook, because that notebook is not just for me. That notebook is for my family. That notebook is for my grandson. To know what was going on at the time. And Aunt Eva was, she was fun-loving and funny and wonderful. So those stories, many of them made their way into the book. And she tells the story, for example, of the time that my father and his friend were near the streetcar. We had streetcars at the time. None of you can remember that. We had streetcars. But they thought it would be fun to see what happened if you put a tin can on the rail of the streetcar. And what happened, of course, was that the electrical activity went all the way down the tracks and made a loud boom. And they ran faster than that. And when they got home to Arlington, their mother said, "What did you do?" So those are stories that Aunt Eva told, and those are stories that are in this book, and you will pick up some of that when you read. In my 3rd floor, I had reams of information about my dad. I said, I'm going to write a book. Sharon's going to write a book eventually, right? And when I got to be of age, I thought, well, I'm not going to write this book. Let's see what's going to happen. I have the material, and I got a call from Dr. Craig Miller. Dr. Craig Miller is a cardiac surgeon. He had just written a book about Dr. DeBakey, whose reputation in cardiac surgery is long and wide, Billy, right? And so I read the book, or at least I read enough about the book to know how he wrote. And I said, why, this is kind of God sent. Sometimes it happens. And so he came and he looked at all that information and he wrote down what he found in all of those papers in my house. Preserve your family's papers, right? Make sure you got a good, safe place for your family's papers. Because it isn't necessarily for the public, it's for your grandchild. And it's for that other young person who comes behind, because they need to know the family histories, right? And so Dr. Miller included in the book a lot of those things that were in that black notebook that Aunt Eva wrote, because I said, please remember the things that I did not know, because you grew up with him. And because you were 17 years younger than he, then you have a memory of him over a long period of time. So I want to understand it, and that's why, that's how this book came to be. The information was shared, and Dr. Miller wrote this book in a very short period of time. He's a wonderful, wonderful writer as well as a cardiac surgeon. And we were able to find lots of pictures. We were able to find pictures from Howard University, from McGill, from Columbia, because my father was at all of those places in his career. And so again, be friendly with your local librarian. So this is a wonderful day for me, to have you here, because all of you I know, and you know my son, and you know our family. And so I'm standing here talking to people whom I know, and people who have known the history, and people who have in their families, people who are highly competent, and who have made tremendous contributions themselves, and they've done it generationally. So I'm talking to my peeps. I'm not sure, H, how do you want to do this, but I would be pleased to. I would be pleased, and I want to acknowledge this gentleman who's standing up. This is Ted Spiro. I'm telling you, this is a partnership. This is a partnership between two people that really is long-lasting. Obviously, when you see them together, you know this is something that's lasted for a time. And I don't know if I already said that, but I said to you today, I said, you know, your brain is different. Did I say that at the beginning? Okay, that's fine. I'm just checking if you were listening. Oh, sure, absolutely. Questions?
Anybody have check? Hello, check.
While he's doing that, if I ask one question, you referenced
so other people can hear.
Hi, I'm Ernie. In the video, your father's quote, "excellence of performance." Can you repeat that again?
Excellence of performance will overcome any artificial barriers created by man.
And you were at Oberlin, and you were at Roosevelt, and you were at NIH, and then in the council, and then the president of Southeastern University. What did that quote mean to you, and did you keep it in the forefront of that amazing brain, and how did that guide you?
Well, I think it guided me all my life. I think if you say excellence of performance will overcome any artificial barriers created by man, I think I lived it.
Yeah.
I lived it. That was always in my head, always in my mind. And my father was not compromising, so it wasn't like I could say, you know, it doesn't matter. Well, it did matter. What I did, how I achieved, where I went into the next step, it mattered. Because it mattered to me that my father would know it, right? It mattered. Yeah, thanks, Ernie.
Any questions? Anybody else have a question?
I'll ask a question.
Sure.
Charlene, will you tell the audience, for people who don't know, how you made the step from being a neuroscientist at NIH to running for office for the first time?
Thank you for that question, Michelle. That wasn't planned. So I finished a degree at the University of Maryland in neuropsychology. I began to do research both at Walter Reed on the superior colliculus of pigeons. Because I was interested in the visual system, and the superior colliculus is midbrain visual system. So if you want to know how pigeons know where the noise is, you're going to go to the midbrain, and you're going to look at the superior or inferior colliculi, depending whether it's vision or touch, or vision or whatever the other sensory system is. And then so that was Walter Reed. And then I went to the laboratory of Dr. Mortimer Mishkin. That was at NIH, and Dr. Mishkin was studying the visual system of monkeys, rhesus monkeys. And he was also interested in the visual system, and so what I learned from him when we did these studies was how to do the removal of parts of the brain after a monkey has learned an activity. For example, the monkey is sitting, he's rewarded by water. He has 3 circles, 2 of which are red and the other one is green, and his job is to pick the green one. And then the part of the brain that affects that is removed or altered. He's put back, and then you want to know, can you do visual discrimination anymore? That was what I did at NIH with rhesus monkeys. No, that was with pigeons. And then I went to Dr. Mishkin. Dr. Mishkin was working in a part of the brain which is called the inferior temporal cortex. The inferior temporal cortex is really interesting. The analysis of vision is occurring back here in the visual cortex. But the pattern discrimination part of what you're seeing is done in the inferior temporal cortex. So there I wanted to know, again, pattern discrimination in rhesus monkeys. I wanted to remove parts of the brain and find that out. And he said, well, that's not enough. What you have to do is you have to go over to NINCDS and you have to learn how to record for single cells in the brain when the animal is awake and performing. So you say, well, how do you do that? Well, you put an electrode in the brain, you amplify it, you cut it off when you see this big pulse, so you know the animal brain is seeing it, and then you want to know, when I show him this, do I get, and that's the way you do that study. So then he said, well, okay, you do that, okay, let's go over and learn something else at National Institute of NINDCS, National Institute of Neurological Diseases and Stroke. Okay, got it. So I went over there, and then I learned some other techniques, and the single cell recording, and then I learned other chemical techniques. I'm telling you all this stuff because I want to prove I can remember it. So if you do 2-deoxyglucose staining, you can trace a pathway through the brain. So that's what I learned to do. Okay. And so it got to be 1968. And I'm going from my house in Washington to Bethesda, and Dr. King is killed, is assassinated. And so I said to myself, what am I doing here? This research is something that takes a lifetime. We're talking about a city that has been decimated by riot after the assassination of a man who has made an indelible impression on the whole world, And I said, maybe my time should be spent in my city helping to rebuild. those commercial corridors. And if you remember, 8th Street was burned. U Street was burned. Where is Kamal? U Street was burned. Others of you might have been along other corridors that came down because of the riots. And I remember, you want me to stop talking? No. I remember that I was unaware of the riots. I was going up 16th Street. I wanted to get over so I could get my kids, Ernie and Pete, from nursery school. I couldn't get through, so I walked over there. And I looked down 14th Street. And 14th Street was ablaze. And there was a policeman on the corner. And there was someone who was stealing sneakers. And the sneakers fell to the ground. And the police officer said, you dropped something. Because Walter Washington said what? Don't shoot. Hey, don't shoot. Who remembers that? Don't shoot. Don't shoot. Walter Washington said don't shoot. And so our neighborhood commercial corridors were destroyed, many of them, because of the riots. And then I said to myself, what should I be doing next? I should be helping to rebuild the commercial corridors that were destroyed during the riots. And that's what Sharon Pratt continued to do when she came into public office. That now is what Kenan is doing. He's the chair of the business committee. I was chair of the business committee. So you understand that there is a lineage here of people who cared about the city and about how to rebuild the city and how to strengthen the city, how to strengthen the medical apparatus in the city. So that's where excellence of performance has taken me. I want to say to you, I've lost my Peter. All of you knew Pete. My heart. Peter was the softest teddy bear. Yeah. Am I right? Yeah. And so we move on. But I also have 2 wonderful grandchildren. I have another slew of grandpeople right there, Mason and Collins, and those are connected to my former husband, Ernie, whom I revere, but that was a young marriage. And so I am pleased to acknowledge Dr. DeMaurice Moses, who is my current husband. When we bought a little beach house down at Venice Beach, we moved next door to the Moses family's home, the Bowser family home. And the next person who came to see me was Dr. Moses. And I said, he's 8 years older than I said, Dr. Moses, why are you here? And he said, because I remember you when you were 12 years old at Highland Beach, running around a tree with your mother being there. I'm talking to Tony. Your mother was at the beach at the time. So, you know, these are histories that connect. I can just connect. I can just connect. So.
Dr. Jarvis.
Yes.
Back here, Bernie Dencho.
Yeah. Bernie.
Your father's reach is far and wide. I'd like you, if you would, speak to that for a moment. I was asked to give a talk at Amherst about 20 years ago. And the place in which I had to give the talk was the Dr. Charles Drew Hall.
Oh, yes, indeed, at Amherst.
And it was that experience, coming from D.C., knowing, of course, who he was, but that inspired me then to come back at the George Washington University and write the Black History of Foggy Bottom.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
And Dr. Drew was the pivotal moment that I understood that 99% white Foggy Bottom today used to be majority black.
That's exactly right.
And it blew my mind. Of course, I understood a little bit about Georgetown, a little bit about Southwest, but Foggy Bottom was special. My question is simply this. His reach is far and wide. Could you speak a little bit about that, please?
I can do that, and I certainly want to acknowledge the Foggy Bottom former council member Jack Evans, who is here with us today. Thank you, Bernard. Foggy Bottom was where my father learned to swim in the Potomac River. His father taught him to swim in the Potomac River. It is where they lived. They lived on L Street, I think 21st and L Street in Foggy Bottom. My father's, let's see, I guess, mother. Okay, so this story is that when Teddy Roosevelt was riding from Foggy Bottom to the White House, Teddy Roosevelt used to come by, and my grandmother, great-grandmother, would be standing there, you know, tending the lawn or doing something, and he would tip his hat and say, call her by the name, which I also will remember in a minute, and tip his hat to her in the morning. That was a neighborhood. It was called Foggy Bottom. And it is where a lot of African-American families lived. My dad went to Stevens School, which is in Foggy Bottom, and he went then to Delray High School. And then he went to Amherst College, and then he went to medical school, McGill, in Canada. And the ironic thing was that he applied to medical school at Howard, but he lacked a credit in English. And for that reason, he then went to McGill, and we saw the person who was a registrar at Howard for many, many years, and he would always go. Miss Howard. So Foggy Bottom is especially important in his life and also in the life of his parents, because that's where he grew up, that's where he learned to swim. That's where he had a paper route. But he was a business person because he had a paper route and he had 5 kids working for him. So he had a little entrepreneurship with him too.
Any other questions?
Yes, Ellen.
Charlene, do you remember the Red Cross story about your father's picture down there?
I'm not sure that I remember the Red Cross story about the picture, but I will tell you the story about the Red Cross.
Okay, you tell me the story about the Red Cross, and I'll tell you the story about the picture.
Yeah, because the picture was done a few years ago. My father's work led to the establishment of the American Red Cross. And that was critically important because we were in war. It was the first time that plasma, it wasn't the first time that plasma was taken from the blood. It was the first time that plasma was used, dried, and reconstituted on the battlefield. So you wonder, how did they take this to the battlefield? Our whole red blood, they took plasma, they dried it, they reconstituted it at the battlefield. And that's really what was able to save many of those lives. The story that Bucky told me this morning, did I tell the story already?
No.
Was this, that in the El Alamein combat, does anybody know the story of the El Alamein?
No, you told that one, but I thought you were going to tell the one that he said there's, in the segregation of blood, there's no scientific reason.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. he was telling me that story about the El Alamein, because I don't know military history, but he does, so it's really interesting. I don't even know how to spell Alamein, so I went to it this morning to see that it was a significant battle in the war. What'd you say? I was to say.
There was no scientific reason why blood
yes.
should be separated
Yes.
only by.
Right. It's a very important point, EJ, because for many years there was no transfer of blood between people of different races. Absolutely prohibited by people of the white designation to receive blood from someone who is African American. My father said there is absolutely no scientific reason to deny blood for anyone on the basis of race. And believe me, that thought, and he said this, and I was very surprised because we were taught not to use this word. He said, anybody who thinks it is stupid. I thought that's a very strong statement to make. We believe you now.
Only by type.
Only by blood type.
Yeah.
So he said, you differ by blood type, right? You differ by negative or positive, valence and blood type. And that was always his answer, and that's what we learned. And thank you for reminding me.
You were going to tell your story.
I'm sorry, what was the rest of that?
Well, I went to work for the Red Cross. It's the only real job I've ever had in my life.
Okay.
And, you know, go to the blood, it's two separate buildings. One is the offices and the other is like the blood bank. So I'm going over there and I'm looking around and I'm saying, oh, there's no picture of Dr. Drew. And one of the vice presidents said to me, oh, well, there is, but it's, you know, I said, it's in the where? He said it was in the storage room. So I said, well, you need to bring it out. So it was like, I guess maybe a month or so went by. And then I called Bill Raspberry. And I said, Bill, there's no picture of Dr. Drew. And they ended up having a whole program. I mean, they brought the picture out and it's hanging there now.
I didn't know. Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Comments, jokes, anything?
Let me answer a question you haven't asked yet. My father did not die on the highway because he was denied admission to an all-white hospital. He died because he was severely injured. He died because he was the one driving at 5 o'clock in the morning. The very heavy Buick Roadster. He was driving, turned the wheel too sharply to the left. The car rolled over his body. He was not able to survive. He was treated by the brothers Coronado. They knew it. My mother has talked to them. We all understood what had happened, but there was a myth that was created because there was another African-American male who was injured on the same highway and who was denied admission to an all-white hospital and as a result died. And so those stories got confused, and one of our more illustrious national members of the political establishment said, well, I'm going to continue to tell it anyway. And I said, you can't do that. So he was treated, he was very, very badly injured, and he lost his life as a result of it. Somebody had a question.
Can you hear me, everybody?
Yeah.
I want to personally thank Charlene and all the people from Ward 4 because I had the opportunity to work on Charlene's campaign with her sons Peter and Ernie when she first started. And I knew her when they were living on Pauline Drive in Bethesda. before they moved into Ward 4. I'm so grateful for her and her family, and her father is one of the greatest men of Omega Sci-Fi. It's not just that, but when I was appointed by Obama, Kristen was there, and she would tell you that the first Black History Month celebration, we were trying to get your father as recognized as one of the greatest Americans to ever live in the past, at that time, 50 years. But I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the medical technology that your father founded and everything. Because I've had a couple strokes and I had a triple bypass. And some of the people here who I haven't seen since my first stroke, they wonder what happened to me, but that's what happened to me. I'm so grateful for your father and the Jarvis family.
Thank you for that comment. I do want to acknowledge Dr. Terry Fulham. Where is Dr. Fulham? Who is the current chair of the Department of Surgery at Howard University. I'm grateful to you to be able to talk today about my dad and about his history and about our love of him and about your connection to him. And if you are an Omega, you know that he wrote the words to the Omega Sweetheart song. Omega hymn. To the Omega hymn, my son is correcting me. Oh, which begins Omega Dear. You know that very well. I'm grateful to you, H. I'm grateful to you, Ted. Paul, I am grateful to you for all of the work which you have done today, but always in my campaigns. Jack Evans and Paul have been stalwarts. I continue to commune with them a great deal about what's going on. I'm interested a great deal in what's going on. Can you make a fee? And I'm grateful for the chance to see another generation and to talk to another generation and to have them understand how important what my father said was excellence of performance will overcome any artificial barriers created by men. Thank you.